All right, what's going on, y'all? It's your boy GK, and right now we are going to do something a little bit different. Um, if you coming into the live, don't forget to hit the like button and all those different type of things. We need people to get inside this conversation. So, like I said, we're gonna do something a little bit different today. I have a special guest. We have a special topic. This is kind of off script from what I usually do, so um, anybody who comes in, if anybody comes in, you know, um, yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. You know what I'm saying? People may see us talking about something kind of different from what the channel is, and decide like, no, we don't want to see this today. But I guarantee you're gonna need to. You know what I mean? But we have a special guest today. Her name is Choppa, and we kind of met on a previous live stream a few days ago, and I thought that based on the conversation that we were having on that other live stream, I felt like it might be beneficial to kind of get an extended version, like get a really get a woman's perspective on a bunch of things that maybe guys may want to know. Um, so how are you doing today, Chop?
I'm doing good, can't complain. Just got off work. So yeah, I
Oh, okay, you
appreciate
just
you
got
having me.
yeah, no problem, no problem, no problem. So I guess this will kind of be like we'll both be kind of well, I guess me and the audience will be kind of getting to know you from scratch because this is our first real conversation, right? So I would ask you to kind of tell us a little bit about your background, like what kind of shaped uh how you see men and women today.
Um, so a little bit about me. One, I'm from Houston, Texas. Shout out to the H.
Got it, got
Um,
it.
so the reason why I really wanted to point out that I am from H Town is because I don't know like how familiar most of your viewers are, or how familiar you are with the reputation we have, but we're known as Hustle Town. Like
Got you.
everybody here is either a small business owner or got multiple, like stuff going on. Like people just out here, getting it.
Got
Like
you.
that's what we're known as. We're known as like we're also a minority majority city, meaning like, it's mainly we're the most diverse city in
Yeah,
Texas.
yeah,
So it's, I'm I come from a background where, I'm empowered by, the communities around me. We see a lot of like
yeah,
immigrants down here who are making it from scratch, getting it from the mud. Like we see people who come from like impoverished neighborhoods really out here doing whatever it takes to like try anything to get it out the mud, and they're doing it, and everybody's supporting each other. And
yeah.
I think that's really dope, and how that shaped me as a woman. Naturally I am ambitious. I've always been an ambitious person.
Got you.
And I think, there's been a lot of dialogue lately about uh, independent women, right?
Mm,
I've heard, some negative attitudes towards it. I've also heard a lot of positive things around it coming from the men's perspective. Um, but, like as a woman, and, even just
around
based
being
on
an
the
independent woman.
yeah, around like independent women, especially independent
Oh,
single
okay,
women,
got you.
there's there's like this stereotype that I hear a lot. If we're gonna talk about, like the negative stuff I've heard from particularly men,
Yeah,
there are some men
yeah.
who feel threatened by that. And I hear a lot about how like uh the independent women mindset is like a bad thing, that it's turning that it's the reason why men don't really want to step up and be men. Like I heard all kinds of absurd things around it,
Yeah,
right? And
got you.
it's
Got you. I
like
got
I don't know like where I really do think men who think that way, it probably stems from a place of trauma, or like just
Yeah.
personal bias, or
Yeah.
I don't really know, right? um
Yeah.
but
I
there's
get you.
just a lot around, like, how has the independent woman mindset, like how has that affected modern dating?
Mm.
um it's just it's a lot to touch on. So
Yeah. No,
that's
I get you. I get you. So would you? So there is a lot of like conversation around these different type of topics and things like that, and that's why at least on my channel I try to stay out of those conversations with my content because it's just like so black or white or this or that or women are the reason, men are the reason, and it seems like that's just like the state of this conversation in society right now. You know what I mean? And it's like I don't think that's a productive way to have the conversation, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of generalizing going on right now when it comes to how women should be, how men should be, and all these different type of things, man. I really feel like to each his own, you know what I mean? Like what being a man or a stand-up guy in one person's aspect may be totally different than another guy based on what that person's life may require of them. So let me ask you this. You said you consider yourself like that independent woman, like
so yeah, so here's the thing about what I think about the term independent woman. I don't buy into that term, because to me, if you're a single adult in your 30s, living by yourself, paying your own bills, I mean, you're just that, like a single
right,
adult, right? You're
right,
not, you don't, I don't have any kids, so I don't have any dependents. I, don't live with my parents. I, have my own place. I have a job. I have, other streams of
right,
income I'm building. So to me, it's just like in my head, well, isn't that what a functional single able-bodied adult is supposed to do, like just handle our responsibilities? So it's just kind of weird to use the word like independent woman. It's like, okay, well,
right,
I'm not really understanding. Like it makes more sense back then when it wasn't common for women to like be in the workforce, or women to like own their own businesses. Like, actually, matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was up until like the 1960s or the 1970s where women, before that time, like, weren't even allowed to open their own bank accounts or their own credit cards without their husband signing off on it. So, like, we do live in a time where we have a lot more opportunity. We have a lot more rights. We have um, a lot more than they did back then. So, with that
yeah,
said, we're living in a time where women no longer have to, depend on uh, having a man to build a life like that. Now we have room to, like, we,
right,
we can open our bank accounts. We can, open our own businesses without
right,
a husband now.
right. No, I
So
understand, and I definitely
yeah.
agree. Like, I think that like trying to put a terminology on all of this stuff is really what's causing a lot of headache. It's like it's like I don't know, like it's really like, hey, I think it's as simple as if this is what you want to do, this is what you want to do. If this is how you choose to live your life, this is how you choose to live your life. And once you realize that you want to live your life this way or be this type of individual, whether another person sees it as independent or dependent or whatever it is, I feel like just you just got to find somebody whose life agrees with the one that you're living. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just that's just simply how I feel about it, and I don't feel like it's worth all of this conversation, right? Like as far as I don't feel like it's worth all of this debate. You know what I mean? Like I feel like the debate part is what's not really uh needed, like, you know what I mean, like to generalize individuals and be like, okay, well, if you if you're if you get past a certain age, then your value in society will be this, like, you know what I mean, like I don't think it's that simple. I think there are more variables that play into things like that, that really depend on, you know, uh inside and outside factors, you know what I mean, because,
Exactly.
if a person, like, let's say, like, if I choose to be a nomad, right, like if I choose to say, well, I want to live in a van and I want to just travel, and a person or general statistics say if you don't get a house by 35, then chances of getting a house is slim to none. That doesn't automatically mean that if I choose to still be doing van life by 37, that, oh, now I'm washed up or I'm not going to be financially able to do. No, none of that means any of that, right? That's how I feel about things.
Hmm.
But again, that's why I wanted to have this conversation, and to kind of get into a more open-minded container where we could just kind of let whatever get on the table, you know what I mean, without any friction. um so do you feel like, because I got more questions, but I feel like I kind of want to utilize this independent kind of word, you said that you feel like people are intimidated by what they deem to be an independent woman. So what do you feel like causes that independent? I mean, not that independence, that intimidation in men. Why do you feel like they feel intimidated by that?
So I do not think men generally are intimidated by it. I think it's a specific type of man, and the specific type of men that are that feel threatened by, let's say, a physically attractive woman who has her own, place, who can pay her own
Yeah,
bills, has a good paying job. It threatens an insecure man who, I guess, like, because they they're not at the level in their life, or they're not in the same phase in their own life as,
yeah,
said woman.
yeah,
So, clearly that can cause, especially with unhealed men who hold a lot of trauma and resentment towards women, if they're insecure about, their financial status or just their status in society in general, they're gonna try to humble that woman. And I do think it stems from a
hello.
for a second. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear you for a
sorry.
second.
It cut off for a
Oh
second,
no, it's
but
all good. It's all good.
yeah, I do think it stems from a place of jealousy, and I do see it a lot, on social media where there are lots of, beautiful female influencers who clearly are living, a luxurious lifestyle with their own money, and
Right.
I see it like even worse for those who are in their late 30s, pushing 40. I see a lot of men try to humble this woman, like, oh, you're washed up. And it's usually, like when a woman mentions that she's single, it's like they have th- these insecure men. Like, I feel that they like to use a financially successful single woman's relationship status as a weapon against them. Like, I see this a lot in, on social media. I see it on Instagram comments. I see it on threads. I see it, even on Facebook sometimes, and even, in some YouTube streams. Like, you hear it a lot, or at least I do, because, like, I obviously follow a lot of successful women on my platform. So yeah, that's what I mean by, like,
Yeah.
intimidated. I don't think men generally are intimidated. I think it's a specific type, and that's definitely the insecure ones.
Got you, got you. Before we move forward, I just want to say shout out to Law in the chat. He said, "Hey," he said, "Trying to name something is draining. It just is what it is." I definitely agree, Law. So shout out to you for that, and shout out to you for being in the building, man. And if you're in the building with us, just hit the like button and help spread the word out a little bit more, because these are some real conversations, folks. Um, so guys feel like, or in these type of guys, right? Like they feel like, you know, um, a woman being single and successful in a sense would make it harder for her to find a man or something of that nature. Um, how do you generally feel about what it's like to date as a uh, kind of a successful woman, like a woman who's kind of existing on her own 2 feet? What is dating like? What is it? What is from the horse's mouth? You know what I mean? What is that
Hmm.
actually?
That's a great question. I would say, I mean, everybody is going to have a different experience with dating. Some women who, are in that same category as like, that independent, like paying her own bills, having a good job. Like, some of them may have an easier time with dating than me. My dating experience is a bit unique, just because I am very selective.
Mm,
And me personally, I like to intellectually connect with the man and be able to emotionally connect, on top of that. And like, I do have standards.
right.
And part of that standard is financial stability. Is this man financially stable enough to even, like enjoy the things that I like to enjoy? Like if I wanted to go out to a fine dining restaurant on a date, which, which is something like I would do with like a group of girlfriends. Like if we're out to a happy hour, go to like somewhere nice.
Yeah.
These women are down to splurge on themselves.
Yeah.
So, naturally, I will want a man who won't really see that as an issue. Like, to him, like I wouldn't want a cheapskate. I would want,
Right.
somebody
Right.
who to them it's like they have that same money mindset, like uh that ambitious attitude where, okay, well, it'll come back, like, I'll spend this, it'll come back to me anyway, I got
Right.
all this going on. You see what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
require like an equally ambitious person, who is financially stable and good with their finances. That's
Right.
just, that that's a non-negotiable for me.
Right.
And I would also say intellectual bracket too. Like if I cannot have like an intellectual conversation with this man, then it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So my standards are, some would say that's high standards, but to me that's not a crazy thing to ask if that's what I am. I'm an intelligent person. I have a degree. I have a stable paying job.
Right.
I'm trying to like build a couple businesses on the side,
Yeah.
because again, I'm an ambitious woman. So naturally, yes, I do have these standards that are non-negotiables for me. But that's just, me speaking on me. Other women might be fine with, like not having those
Right.
specific requirements.
Of course.
But I can only speak for
Of course.
myself.
Of course. And that's the reason why generalizing doesn't work I was gonna say in general, but it kind of that's the reason generalizing doesn't work though, because it's like everybody has their unique, right, like way of living. And even if you kind of similarly agree with certain standpoints or bullet points or things like that, it may be something as simple as you like to drink Coke and this person likes to drink Pepsi, and they don't really want to deal with a Pepsi drink or a Coke drink. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as that, but these are the unique things that make the difference, that make us have our differences. But you did say you value intellectual synergy, you value emotional intellect, someone being emotionally intellectual, and you
Hmm.
also said you value financial stability. Well, let's change those to stability: emotional stability,
Hmm.
financial stability, and let's say psychological stability.
Hmm.
You are before I ask this next question, are these the only, or not the only things, but are these the main things? Are these like the foundational things that you look at, or are there more things that contribute to the foundation? And what I mean by foundation is okay, you may find a guy attractive physically by whatever you find attractive, but in order to allow him into your life, you have to gauge these things: how stable
Hmm.
is he in these areas? Are these the main three things that he has to pass before he's allowed to even um, enter your life further for you to get to know him?
Well, I would say uh, those three, among other things too. I definitely look for if we're talking personality, I do need somebody who has a sense of humor, and somebody who is respectful.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
someone who is chivalrous, because I feel
Oh,
like chivalry is not very common nowadays, and
okay,
I
okay.
find that to be very problematic. So I would say, like,
Yeah,
yeah, those five things are my
okay.
non-negotiables.
Okay. Now, what I want to ask you is, can you shed a little bit of light on how these standards came to be, right? Like, I'll tell you, like, for me, a lot of, if not 100% of the standards that I have, and values and principles and boundaries and all these different things, they came from hitting my head and being like, hey, I don't want to do this again. So how can I prevent myself from doing this again? Okay, maybe if I just, kind of screen them for this, that I feel like is important to me, maybe that will, maybe that'll work. But how did these standards that you have come to fruition and kind of solidifies your standards?
I would definitely say trial and error. You know,
Gotcha.
I've been through my fair share of, I did have my longest relationship. Or actually, I would even go as far to say my only serious relationship was actually with a narcissistic person who had a lot of mental health issues. Didn't, he was even prescribed like antidepressants and all kinds of other medication. Like, well, wasn't a mentally stable individual, and with that came a lot of psychological abuse towards me. And, coming out of that situation, and, this was like over 6 years ago. So, like, these past 6 years, I did get a chance to really, find myself again, rebuild my confidence, because, like, I don't know how familiar you are with like narcissistic abuse, but what it does to especially women, what it does to us, it does take a toll on our self-esteem. It does take a toll on our confidence, and it's even scientifically proven that when a woman is dealing with a man like that, uh, she can go through a lot of physical health problems. There's that inflammation, there's the stress levels, like you name it. So that being
Yeah.
said, I know that I have to be a little, like, I have to reflect a little bit more, and kind of gauge into what attracted me to that in the first place. Like, what about me is thinking that it's okay to be treated this way? Like, why did I think that this was a good man at the time? Like, what is going on?
Right.
Because there's obviously something deeper. We all
Right.
date at the level of where we're
Right.
at, right?
Right. Right. And that's very
So,
important.
just it took a lot of, like, self-awareness, a lot of reflecting, and even, uh, when I did start casually dating again, just figuring out, you know, how to
Collecting more data.
properly evaluate like the quality of a man's character. And I would say I'm
Yeah.
still learning that, I don't really think I've gotten to where I need to be yet. But it has gotten increasingly better. So, like, that tells
Yeah.
me that I'm doing something right in my own, like, healing journey.
Got you. And I agree with that 100% because my main philosophy that I have is that everything starts with you, right? Everything starts with you. And the reason that it starts with you is because you're the first person that you have to address before you know how to address anybody else. Like, like I feel like that was a major turning point for me in my growth journey as far as understanding that concept. Like, why am I steady? Like exactly how you were saying. Like, why did I choose? What do I see in this individual? Like, why do I choose to be in these situations that I know or feel or see aren't good for me, but I still seem to manifest only these type of situations in my life? um, I've had to sit with myself first because I believe that to the degree that I see myself for who I really am is to the degree that I'm able to demand that level of respect in the world, to know when should I compromise, when should I set a strict boundary. You have that has to be tied and grounded to
Mhm.
something. And I find that to the degree that you have not done that work within yourself for real, right? Like I can say all day that I've done it, but when it comes down to it, the way that time reveals it is in times of trial and tribulation, when life really puts that pressure on you and forces you to have to either pass or fail, you know what I'm saying, that test. And I just believe that that's when it really shows the work that you have done and the people who really have done that work. It's almost like you develop a different type of lens that you're looking through life and people with. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
like you may find a person attractive, but then you get that backup generator that kicks up that says, "Oh no, you remember, attractiveness is not the only barrier to entry. We have to make sure they are also emotionally
Right.
stable, intellectually stable." You know what I mean? And how do we do that? That insert whatever, kind of things you have
Mhm.
here. But for me, it's conversation. I personally have it set up in my life to where I believe that if I can conversate with an individual based on the level of work that I've done with myself and how clear I know myself, I can gauge over time compatibility, because I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for because I did that work. I see that. I know I'm an introvert, right? Like I know I'm an introvert with an extrovert meter. So I'm optimistic to using that every day for 12 hours. But once that 12 hours go, I can't keep going with you, So if you're
Yeah.
a person who can do that, then I know now that I can let you know in the beginning so that we don't have to waste each other's time, right? And
So
to
do you think just sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. Like just out of curiosity, do you think that introverts and extroverts can be compatible?
I think that anything is possible, but I think that again, you would have to know yourself enough to know where your peaks are and where your
Mm.
valleys are. And in those valleys, you would have to be able to know yourself well enough to see the other person for who they are and see their peaks and see if their peaks line up with your valleys and vice versa. I think that
Mhm.
that is the real way to gauge. Is past the introverted extroverted thing. I think it's more so just on a ability to see people and see yourself and line those things up, kind of like this. If they do this,
Mhm.
then obviously it doesn't work. And but if they kind of like, merge within the peak, your peaks and their valleys, I think that's a more accurate way to determine, because at that point you may be an introvert or extrovert, but we're kind of working here. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I feel like somebody has to take charge of seeing that. Um, and that's kind of where in my personal beliefs, I kind of hold men to a higher standard, or I ain't gonna say men, I'm gonna say myself. I hold myself to a higher standard that says I know that the only way a relationship with me or any ship, I kind of go off. I call them ships. Whether you have a friendship, relationship, a situationship, they're all ships. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And to the degree that this ship can stay afloat, is to the degree that we're clear in the ship. We're clear. We're on one accord. Nobody's in the dark. Nobody's being lied to. Nobody's. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's really how I feel about it. So moving on, do you Do you think most men, in your experience, like again, I know most saying most is kind of like a generalizing statement, but just to the best of your ability to answer, do you think most men even know what women are even looking for in a guy?
Um, that's I feel like there's a lot of layers to that question. I mean, because at the end of the day, different types of women look for completely different things in men and vice versa.
Yeah.
If we want to get
Okay. For you.
specific,
For you. For you.
for
Let's speak
me,
from us.
okay,
Let's speak from a us perspective.
okay, so for me, so you asked, do I think the men,
They
from my experience, know what exactly a woman is looking for?
will know what you're looking for. Like, you know what I mean?
Or do I know what I'm looking for?
Yeah, no, like do you like okay, so you're out and you're living life and you come across a guy who you allowed to get a chance with you or whatever the case may be. You decide to give him opportunity, see what he's about. Now, in his mind, he got to put it together. You know what I'm saying? Like he got to connect, he got to fill the gap, make it make sense,
Uh-huh.
right? So, do you think that in your experience that um most guys that you have come across get it, like get how to find that out, how to get to know you properly as a woman, like how to see you for who you know that you are, like because you're living with your brain every day. um
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing,
Yeah.
because you can be with an individual and like that individual, but never,
Mm-hmm.
but understand as a woman that this guy really never seen you fully. You know what I mean? I think that is possible.
Whew,
uh,
that is a great, great, great question. So, I would say, from my experience, uh, so I'll use the most recent guy that I dated as an example. So this man was somebody that I really connected with. I really cared about him. Unfortunately, the relationship only lasted 6 weeks, which obviously isn't a long time, but it
right.
felt like it was long because the depth of my emotional state for that person, like the connection was that deep that it felt longer than that. Even though it was a
Yeah.
short-term relationship, it was still impactful.
Yeah.
And that's because I never felt that way about somebody before. And the scary thing is, uh, I didn't realize it at the time, but after, this whole entire year I had to myself to, really reflect on that situation.
Right.
He was everything I wanted. Like he had the financial stability. He, was obviously was in his masculine energy. He, uh, very intelligent man. Like we were definitely able to have intellectual conversation. He was funny. Like we had mutual
Yeah.
interests. So it was a lot that we had in common. Now what happened was, now I'm realizing the reason why I fell fast for this individual is because there was love bombing.
Mm,
And I at the time I didn't realize it, but love bombing, if it's that soon, like we're talking first week, he wanted to already make it exclusive, already,
yeah.
telling me, how he feels about me and all this stuff. And,
Yeah.
I was feeling the same way too, but something, the red alarm went off, somewhere
Yeah.
in my gut that told me, whoa, he's saying all this stuff to you. He's saying, like
Right.
he loves who you are and all that stuff, but he
Right.
doesn't know you. He only knows you for this amount of time. He's
Exactly.
in love with your persona. He's in love with the idea of you. And I
Exactly.
think the unfortunate thing about my experience, because, not trying to sound cocky or anything, but I am aware that I am an attractive woman.
Right.
And I also am very introspective, and I
Right.
do, I'm great at holding deep conversations with people. I value deep connection.
Yeah.
And, for a lot of men, and on top of that, I'm financially, independent, this and that. So for a lot of men, that appears to be rare. And,
Right.
it's like almost like that unicorn effect, right? Like, oh, she's a unicorn. Like, they love the idea of me, but in that, there's that in that idealization of me, you forget that I'm actually a human being.
Right.
Like, I have my moments. Like, I'm not
Right.
a perfect person.
Right.
I make mistakes. I have a temper sometimes when I get triggered. Like, I
Right.
have my flaws.
Right.
So that doesn't, like, the problem here is in that situation, like, we eventually started like bumping heads because again, there was that idealization of me. I kind of called it out in the,
Right.
best way I could to not like insult him, but I had
Right.
to remind him, hey, like, I don't really know if you love me. I think you love the representative of me. You don't really
Yeah.
know me yet. It's like, are you going to
Yeah.
be there when I'm, really going through it? Are you going to be there when shit hits the fan? Like, are you going to
Right.
love me unconditionally in my worst state? I don't know these things in the first week. Like, I won't know. So, come to find out, I was going through a stressful situation, and it was very poorly handled on his end. And everything just went downhill from there. And that just
Yeah.
kind of showed me, yeah, yeah, I was right. My intuition was right. This person
Yeah.
only liked the idea of me. He was not going to be there unconditionally. Because if he
Right.
was, he wouldn't have handled certain situations the way he did, and he definitely wouldn't have cut things off the way he did, or told me, how he really felt towards the end. So
Right.
that just kind of like made me realize I need to be a little more mindful when it comes to like falling too quick for the love bombing.
Yeah.
That I learned my lesson. This person could seem great from the surface, but
Yeah.
these types of things take time,
Yeah.
and I have to, be mindful of that moving forward.
Yeah. No, I definitely look. You preaching to the choir, you know what I'm saying? But it's like it's that's why I like having this conversation right now because I feel like I identify with what you're saying just from the other end of the field, right? Like as a guy, it's like how do you or in general, it's like how do you protect yourself against something like love bombing? How do you protect yourself against these things that can necessarily make you feel good in the moment, but you don't know if it's real or fake or whatever, And I literally have found that the only answer to that is really knowing yourself and knowing what how things are supposed to look, right? Like I know that in my dating experience, at this point, I realized that the same reason a lot of women may like me or be attracted to me is the same reason why they're going to end up hating me or disliking me.
Hmm.
Because, I'm aware that with the lifestyle that I live, I have a lot of different things going on. I have my hand in a lot of different baskets, and plus, I still have to make time for myself and my own healing. So when I do like 80% of my time is spent working to become the man that I know I'm supposed to be. But that 20%, now it's like, okay, I'm at a point now where it's like, okay, I value spending time with myself and discovering things about me. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't
Hmm.
need to kind of be conditioned to feel like, oh, I need to go out here and date. Oh, I need to go out here and take a woman out or do or find, you know what I mean? Like kind of go down that route. No, it's okay for me to, exist in my own space for a while. But in doing that, I realized that it allowed me to see myself clearer, to realize this is the process that I really need to go through to see everybody else clearer too. So what I mean by that is I've realized like okay, because just a little bit of background on me. Like, this is something I'm not ashamed of because I am, past this point in my life now, thankfully. But I was a liar and a cheater, right? So this is pretty much me in all my relationships. You know what I'm saying? But it got to a point where I had messed up so bad where I had to really sit with myself and hold myself accountable to like the same way you were like, why am I even attracted to this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
why is it that this is what compels me? Why, in my case, I'm like, why is it that this is the options that I choose to take? You know, and I realized that before I could lie to another person, I had to lie to myself about something. So if that's the case, then what am I lying to myself about? Maybe I'm lying to myself about this, whatever I keep getting myself into being what I'm supposed to be in, and keep allowing myself to put others and kind of cause destruction in other people's lives because I'm not aware of what my real truth is, you know. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of just doing anything, and if you like me, I like you. Hey, well, shit, I mean, well, shoot, you know, uh, you know, let's do it until further notice. And you get in the car. Hey, I got a vehicle. I don't know what the destination is, but hey, you look good right now. So you trying to get in? That's pretty much how it goes. And then when it crashes, or when I see that it's going down the destination of failure, I would rather, instead of doing what I got to do and saying, hey, I really know this is not where I'm supposed to be, or this is not where you supposed to be, or this is what I really would like to be doing. I just rather uphold that image that I felt like you have in your head of me because I feel like we're already here and I don't have the balls to correct it now, you know?
Mhm.
So I had to let pretty much everything hit the fan and sit with myself and really start from scratch and be like, okay, well, GK, what is your truth? Like, you know what I mean? Like, let's write it down. What, and, why do you do all of this stuff? Oh, you don't have any boundaries. You don't have any, values. You don't have, and I had to create these things, you know, I had to create literally the things that, because you have to have discernment,
Mhm.
especially as a man, right? Because let's say you were, when you were talking, you were saying, well, I'm gonna have my days. I'm gonna have some days I have attitude, some days I'm not feeling too good, some days I'm this, some days I'm that. As a man, I have to be able to see that and process that and have discernment to be like, is this a situation where I need to give her reassurance, or is this a day where I need to kind of readjust the goals? Like, hey, I understand this is how you feel, but this is what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to be able to have the discernment to know which situation is cause for what. And I feel like that comes with alignment. That comes with understanding, hey, why are we together? Right? Like, what is the reason that we're together here in this relationship today? And I feel like the only way you can do that is by knowing yourself and knowing what you want, you know, because you're not going to be able to kind of synergize long term because people grow. People,
Mhm.
if you're going to stay together for like years and years on end, you're gonna become two and three different versions of yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if you all like, well, it starts with you. So if you don't know yourself well enough to bring a clear version of yourself, I'm not talking about a fully perfect, fresh out the, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about just an understanding of even where you're messed up at to bring it to the table. You know what I'm saying? If you're not in that place and both of you are not somewhere in that ballpark, then as time goes past and you all eventually grow as people, you're not going to be able to properly bring that to the table to readjust the program, to adjust for change, to adjust for different goals, to adjust for pivots and things like that, because nobody really knows what's going on anyway, because everybody is a stranger to themselves. So they could never be, so they by default, they're a stranger to each other, you
Mhm.
know. That's what I feel like there, any discrepancy that you pretty much see in a relationship. Now I'm kind of what's that, biased towards that, right? Like I do generalize on that. Like to the degree that you see an issue in a relationship is to the degree that it probably starts from within those two people as individuals somewhere. You know, that's where
Yeah.
I'm at with it. So I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and it's just it's like I said, it's refreshing being able to have a conversation, with you from your firsthand experience, because all I know is my man's perspective, and all I know is if nobody's doing it, I got to pick it up as a man. If nobody's thinking about the goals of the relationship, I got to pick it up. So that's why I've chosen to not be in a relationship right now, because I realize I got to get clear on certain things first before I
Mhm.
ask the individual to step inside my vehicle of life. You know what I mean? To be a
Yeah,
part
exactly.
of a moving 6-ton vehicle that, you know what I'm saying, we don't even have a direction for. You know what I mean? And I feel like I gotta have that direction. I gotta have that clarity so that I can be able to, I might even have to tell you like, hey Chopper, you know, I really think you are attractive and I really think that, everything you have going on is beautiful, but we just don't align. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like you or somebody may be willing to open up, like a woman may be willing to open herself to me in that way, and I might still have to have a even higher discernment to say, well, I appreciate that, but I can't do that because I know that we're not in alignment in this way, so I will be stealing from you because I know that you are only giving this to me because you feel like I fit in your life in this way, but I can see that we don't. I think that takes a what I think that, man, it's
That
like you
takes a whole new level of
that
self-awareness.
that's what I'm saying.
And that's the thing, like, I really do feel like more men need to do that, cuz like, yes, you're right. If, let's say a woman is at a certain stage in her life and the man is not up there. Yes, he could be a great man, but at the end of the day, because, ideally, like, the man would preferably be the one leading, right?
Right.
And it just,
Yeah,
women have um uh, so much energy that can be harvested, and when it's harvested by the wrong man, oh,
exactly.
it can drain the life out of her. And
Exactly.
that's the thing, like, it's unfortunate because I do see women, oftentimes, like, uh going for men who are not necessarily in the same stage or better as them, and it happens all the time. They end up like on the work, getting the shorter end of that stick,
Yeah.
while the man is reaping all the benefits, harvesting
Yeah.
her energy, and like all
Yeah.
that stuff. And I think it takes self-awareness from both parts. Like, like, I'll give you an example from my personal experience. There was one time where, um another time I really connected with somebody. uh we were compatible, like we had similar interests. I was able to hold, intellectual conversation with him. Now the problem is he was a former felon, so he obviously couldn't have his own place during that time. He couldn't really hold a stable job either.
Mhm.
He just had a lot going on, and then there was that whole tendency to go back into the street life constantly, and it was too much. He respected the hell out of me though. Like, that was the first time I ever like experienced somebody who really knew how to respect women and knew how to be like chivalrous. Like, I didn't experience that prior to that moment. So like, the unfortunate reality, what makes dating so hard now is, no matter how good of a person somebody could be, at the end of the day, like, there are bigger factors that come into play, and a lot of that
Yeah.
has to do with like what stage they're at in life, like
Yep.
financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yep.
And those are crucial things that you got to look out
Right.
for.
Right. And I understand that. And that is the unfortunate reason why it just pays to have that next level sense of a self-awareness, right? Because one thing I did want to say, because we originally started before I got off into that tangent, was talking about like how to protect yourself from like a manipulative individual, right? And how one of the first things I realized in my journey was that everybody has their shit. My bad. I keep. I'm trying
I
to.
mean, hey, this is your channel. If you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
cuss,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
I
it's
know. I'm
cool.
trying to. I'm trying to abide by the YouTube guidelines. You know what I'm saying? But everybody has their stuff. And so like when you mention persona and all these different things, it's like relationships to me exist in stages. First, we have that Disney Channel stage where it's like, yeah, everything about this woman is just so, oh my God, like she does everything so right. Even when she used the bathroom and you know what I'm saying, it just smells so good afterwards. You know what I'm saying? It's like that at first. And then you get to that point where you have your first few obstacles, like you have a bad time in life, that other person has a bad time in life, and it's now going to pull on the psychological strength of individuals. You know what I'm saying? And here is where you start to really see those first cracks in the persona, to the degree that you didn't already kind of say this in the beginning. If you didn't say this in the beginning, this is where I've realized that a lot of these cracks come in. And so, in saying that, I'm just saying everybody has their stuff. So, when
Mhm.
I meet an individual, part of how I gauge alignment is um, I'm trying to see how well you're acquainted with your own stuff. That's the out the gate. Like no that like first piece of the conversation that I'm gauging is I need to find out how well acquainted you are with your own stuff. Are you a stranger to yourself? Because if you're a stranger to yourself, you can never be a friend to me, you know? Uh
Mhm.
so, you know, I just gauge that, like, how aware are you? I don't A lot of people don't subscribe to this, but I do subscribe to a term called shadow work. um
Yes, I'm very big on that.
right, like you have to like aggressively, intentionally say, this is my issue. I gotta forcefully kick that door open, because that's the only way you can really integrate that, right? Like you can, like it's a perfect analogy, right? Like you got like the light in this room right now, but to the degree that the light is bright, and if the light was to get brighter, the only thing that would do to the shadows is make them more prevalent too. Let's make them easier to see too. So you have to really, you can't just overshadow your the work that needs to be done with good qualities, you know what I mean, or with skills, or you have to do the work, because the brighter your light shines, the more darker that shadow casts. So when I'm talking to a person for the first time and I'm meeting them and I'm saying like, okay, you got their number and you scheduled this first meeting or first date or whatever the case may be, this is the goal, right? Like usually before I had all this, before I got my standards and values and principles and boundaries in place, I wasn't thinking about any of this. I'm just like, hey, I'm just going out with a person that I like, and hopefully this leads somewhere not terrible. You know what I mean? But hey, I'm going with the flow. But I can't go with the flow, and you can't. We both can't be going with the flow at the same time. Somebody has to set the destination, and the intention, and the temperature, and the program. You know what I'm saying? So I look at that, and if you can't really articulate your shadow or your shadow work to me, then I'm not saying that that's an automatic disqualifier, but I'm just saying that becomes that is then the balance that holds me, that's what holds me in
That's
the balance.
something you become mindful about.
Yeah, because I'm not, I'm not disqualifying an individual because they may still be in somewhere in their process that I feel like I actually might be able to still have a place for in my life. But at that point, I do gauge how much of a student to yourself you are. Are you willing to receive that constructive criticism, right, from an individual who may have gone down that path already? Are you willing to have these types of conversations? Is your mind open to these types of topics without without feeling like someone is attacking you, right? Because I realize when in individuals who aren't really ready to handle that part of their shadow work, when you bring up something that is one of those deeply rooted shadows, it kind of triggers individuals who aren't ready, whose brain aren't ready to um handle that. Therein that's what lets me know everything that I need to know on, like, okay, well, as pretty as you are, I cannot move further because the lifestyle that I live requires someone who is able to handle this, and I can't teach you how to see yourself. So
Right.
that's kind of where I gauge that at. And so, for you to say that you were you kind of seen these things, you kind of seen certain things when you were dating the one guy, and that's kind of like the bittersweetness of life, where it's like, man, this guy is actually seeing me for how I want to be seen, but his life is still got to get in order in this way. Is those be the things where it's like, dang,
Hmm.
I really want this to work, but this situation kind of based on my standards have disqualified themselves.
And it just kind of further reinforced like why I value financial stability and all the other things I mentioned so much, because like that experience with that former felon, what that made me do as far as like looking within, I really had to get real with myself and really ask myself, okay, what happened? Do you really believe that this is the best you can do? Like, is this where your level of self value is at? Like, do you really think you cannot get any better than this? Like, do you really think you are not able to pull somebody who, is doing financially well? Do you really believe that you're not worthy of somebody who isn't out here, committing crime? Like, is this how you really view yourself? Is this really how you value yourself? Like, you're willing to believe that this is the best you can do? That I really had to be real with myself. Like, yeah, like I have to do, like, I do deserve better than this. So I do have to like believe it,
Right.
subconsciously program myself to believe that yes, I am worthy of my match. Like, I am worthy
Right.
of a man that has a good job and doesn't have a criminal record. I am worthy of a man who is ambitious and like, does have an educational background similar to mine. Like, I deserve that, because like that's what I am, and I think that's what I should be striving for moving forward. So I think that's the lesson I learned from that situation. And that I think that's what dating does. Like, every situation gets you to a new level of self-awareness, like
Exactly.
especially the ones that fail, because there's always a lesson in
Exactly.
that to learn about yourself.
Exactly. And that's why to date, I will always say that the my biggest turning point in the man that I am today came when I had to really, check myself on the whole lying, cheating thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, really understanding that, like, how selfish it is to really cause detriment to to be willing to cause detriment to another person's life, all for the sake of not being willing to be real with yourself enough to be real with that other person. And how much of a coward move that is, right? Like, and that, like, okay, I understand that, oh, I didn't know myself enough to know what I wanted, and in hindsight, it's like a dual thing going on. It's like a dual storyline going on, because it's one where I can't blame myself. I can't be like, well, you should have known something that you didn't know. But I do while simultaneously running that script, have to take accountability and responsibility for what I did to the you guys was messed up. You know what I mean? And I can't change what I did, but one thing I can do is just acknowledge that moving forward, I can never, I could never do something like that to somebody's life. I could never, because this is, you only get one life, right? Like, and let's say you with me for a year or 6 months or even 6 hours, and you believe me to be one individual or doing something that I told you I was doing, you know what I'm saying? And turns out you even got 6 hours of your time that you got wasted and can't get back. I don't want to be that. I don't want to have that blood on my hands anymore. You know what I'm saying? And I
Exactly.
had to realize that, why do you do this? Well, you do this because you ain't even real with yourself, because I had to allow myself permission, right? And it's like, it may be 15 years down the line before this video actually gets big enough for guys to actually listen to it, but you got to give yourself permission, right? Like, I felt like I was doing all that because I felt like I had to uphold an ideal. I feel like I wasn't a man unless I was in a relationship with a woman, being a stand-up guy, blah 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 blah. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I, you know, went wrong in thinking that, how can you be this and you don't know what being this looks like, right? Because
Hmm.
what I realize is that, you know if a woman decided to get into a relationship with me or get into whatever ship with me, well, let's just say a relationship. What I had to realize, whether it was conscious or unconscious, was that that woman expected me to be what she deemed to be a man. You know what I'm saying? And so what I mean by that is, if coming into the picture, if her in her experience, if what she looks as a man is somebody who is financially stable, somebody who can handle, maybe she feels like she shouldn't have to pay for things when you go out, or maybe, whatever it is, right? She's When she agrees to step into your vehicle, your ship, she's coming with all of these things. And if nobody is skilled enough to get these expectations and these values and things on the table, then this heightens the likelihood that that confusion can happen when you sitting at the table and you like, well, this our first date, and I'm gonna just, let's go Dutch. I always like to go Dutch on my first date, but then she looking at you crazy like, what are you talking about? And then that starts a whole thing because nobody really took the time to know who they were dealing with. You know, I just feel like this is really what causes a lot of confusion, in a lot of spaces.
And I think, that's probably why. Now I'm starting to believe that, I know I touched on the whole like uh, insecure men, feeling intimidated by, like a woman with standards. I do feel like it it really has to do with that lack of self-awareness they have. Like they didn't
That
do
is
that inner work. And,
exactly
obviously when, a man is not doing his inner work, of course he's going to think it's crazy to see a woman doing her inner work. They're going to
right,
feel like
right,
there's going to be that, like that resentment, that jealousy, that like,
yeah, yeah,
oh, she's too good for me. I feel the need to humble her, type of thing.
yeah. And it's just so unproductive because, at like, the more the more I get in tune with myself and I realize that, you know, I have a divine masculine energy that really like something to behold, right? Like this is what I was blessed with. Um it really makes me realize, wait a minute, if this is how I feel as a man, then I know that divine feminine energy. Like I and again, like when I say these things, I don't necessarily describe to what subscribe to what people are talking about when they say divine masculine, divine feminine. But I'm just saying, like, this is some potent stuff. Like this is some very
Yeah.
raw. This is some energy to behold. You know what I mean? So I feel like the more I tap into my peace and my happiness, and I realize, like, wow, like, but it comes at the cost of the truth. Comes at the cost of, I may really like this woman, but once I tell her who I really am and who she's really looking at past the persona, she may decide that I don't fit into the life that she wants to have, and I got to be willing to take that for the cost of my peace and my happiness. And as I do that, and I realize this energy, I'm like, wow, it's dang near meant for me to be in contact with that, with the feminine version of this, right? Like the feminine energy of this. Like I have to require that the person that I deal with knows herself as a woman to a certain degree and is able to kind of manifest her energy in this way and her gifts, because those peaks and valleys that I was talking about earlier, that's just for basic functionality of a basic relationship. Like you got to have that. But when you are both tapped into your real true energy and vibration as a man and a woman truly, and are able to center, it's like almost like alchemy. It's like being a part of the Justice League. It's like we're
Mhm.
doing things that are leagues above, right? So if you're in a, because you know how beautiful that is, if you are able to experience that within yourself, let alone experience that synergy with another woman, if you're a man and another woman, um when people start talking about, oh, value in the marketplace, all right, you know what I'm saying? It's all, you have already told me enough, that, I don't, I know this is not where I belong. You know what I'm saying? Like it's certain things that I listen to that it's like you already have told me you're not in the hemisphere of what it is, and I'm trying to actually discuss today, you know?
Yeah.
And
And
that's how I gauge.
I really like that you said, you mentioned divine masculine, because that's something I'm really big on, and I feel like there's a shortage of men who can really fit that description. Like I my YouTube algorithm, I it's always showing me like, like female life coaches, or like a
Yeah,
lot of financial education stuff. Like I follow a lot of stuff that, is all about my personal improvement as a woman. And part of that, a common theme that pops up a lot, is the divine feminine. I'm constantly working at becoming that divine feminine version of me so that I can be able to attract, the lifestyle I want, the man I want, and one thing about me, the more healed I become and the more tapped into that divine femininity within myself, the more clear it becomes that I really these standards that I hold as far as the dating market, really what I'm looking for is a divine masculine man at its core, who is in a financially stable place and is in a similar stage of life as me, or better, preferably, better, because, women are naturally hypergamous beings. But,
yeah,
that's what, ideally exactly what I feel I'm trying to align with. I'm trying to get to that point where I do align with that man at that life stage. And
right,
I'm working towards that constantly to become, the best version of myself. I mean, nobody's ever going to be completely 100% healed. I
right,
think that that's just not realistic, but you can be healed enough to where you're no longer attracting toxicity in your life. And I think that's
right,
ultimately what I want. I want to avoid toxicity, not just relationships, but friendships as well, and even work environments, or just anything in life. Like, there's been so much toxicity in my life since a kid that I'm at a full-blown detox at this point.
Yeah,
I no longer want to experience that. If and when I do get married, I don't experience that. Like, I really want to just like live a healthy, you know, peaceful life. And I think it is possible, despite
yeah,
all the toxicity social media tries to push, because we see it a lot. We see toxicity glamorized so much, on social media, on TV, everything. You see it everywhere, especially in this generation. And that makes it increasingly hard to meet individuals who are on that like divine
right,
feminine or divine masculine
right.
journey. Like, it's rare.
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, and like you said, nobody will ever be fully healed, like, like fully, nobody will ever be perfect, right? Like nobody will reach the end destination of like, wow, after 10 years, I have finally become the highest version of myself. Like it's always it's always a continuing journey. Now, with that being said, because we know that nobody, no man, no woman will ever be essentially God, you know what I'm saying? No man will ever reach perfection.
Hmm.
Uh, we have to account. I feel like a smart person would account for that, right? A smart person would, a smart relationship would account for the fact that there will be days that I'm gonna not have it, or you're not gonna have it, or we're gonna go through this, or we're gonna go through that. We're not gonna see eye to eye. And I feel like there needs to be a structure to that, right? There needs
Hmm.
to be a these stupid rules that we follow in these stupid times. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm talking to you and you're talking to me and we get taken and it gets past a certain point, we need to refer back to this framework. You know what I mean? So that the we remove our emotions from the solution, right? We're no longer making decisions based off of how I feel or how you feel. We're just making decisions based off the framework that we agreed to get to the solution because we chose to be with each other and we still have to be with each other tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like um that's just how I personally feel. And I feel like with that being said, I feel like somebody has to take charge of that. And I feel like the person who should take charge of that, if anybody, is the man.
Hmm.
The man should be able to establish a tone, a pace, a program, and the woman, should be able to trust the man enough to follow
Hmm.
along with his program. This is not a thing where, the woman is feeling like she forced to do this, or the man is like, you know, do this or else I'm gonna, beat you up or something like that, or I'm gonna manipulate you emotionally or something. It's not like that. It's literally like the divine synergy of the most masculine and feminine energies coming together in such a divine way that woman's respect for that man is so high that she just feels like this is how she wants to show him how much she respects him by following his lead. You know what I mean? And allowing him the space to set the tone, and allowing that framework to manifest itself in times where you may not be having a good day, or I may not be having a good day. And I may have to come to you and be like, well, I understand, but this is, we in this time, we got to go do this, and you do that, and we do it together, and we reach the destination. Or on the other end, which is what a lot of guys don't like too. A lot of guys like to make the rules, but a lot of guys don't like to follow their own rules that they made. Where it's like you may even come to me and be like, "Well, now this is, you getting too emotional or whatever the case may be. Now you got to do this," and I may be like, "You know what, man? I really want to tell you something, but I'm gonna go ahead and do this." And we reach our destination and we're able to live another day. I feel like that's what that divine synergy looks like. But the respect level, like when you talk about when you have people who use the term submission, I want a woman who submits to me. You know what I'm saying? I feel like even that is kind of like obsolete to say because you don't get a woman to submit. In my opinion, I think you don't get a woman to submit to you. I feel like a woman that just respects you enough to where she just gives that to you because that's her gift to give. You know what I'm saying? And I
Mhm.
feel like to the degree that you are have done the work in advance, so by the time you ask her to step into your ship, you have already came with a baseline that's able to support the bare minimum of making sure she has space to exist as a woman. I think that's just simply I feel like that's the equation in my book, and that's why I've chosen, like, in realizing, like, wow, I've look at the carnage that I've left in my relationships past. I have to take the time. I have to tell myself and that, yeah, you're not qualified right now. You know what I'm saying? You need to sit down for a second and know yourself for real. You know, because it would be unfair for me, right? Like it'd be unfair for you or a woman for me to allow you, knowing that I'm like, it's different. It's a difference between ignorance and, yeah, you didn't know. You still got to take responsibility, even though you didn't know, but you didn't know essentially. But it's a whole nother type of wrong when you know and you still do. You know what I'm saying? When I
Mhm.
know I'm not qualified right now, but I still got somebody out here in this world feeling like they are in a relationship with me. You know, I can't, my spirit can't hold that no more at this point.
Right.
I already have gotten past that point of dealing with myself in that manner, you know? So,
Right. And yeah, uh, from a woman's perspective, to touch on what you said, um, when it comes to like now, I know the term submission, like I think it's very misconstrued. Because like I'll say I was even guilty of this too. Like whenever, I would hear uh a man say like, oh, but it let's be clear, not a divine masculine man, but like a man who is not tapped into that. Whenever I would
right,
hear that type of man say the word submit or submission, that a woman should submit to
right,
a guy, blah blah, say something like that, it can be triggering to a lot of women, especially those who are, have their own thing going on, are independent,
right,
very ambitious women. Like, it doesn't, that word doesn't sit well because of like the context that it's been used, that it's been
right,
used in such a in the wrong context to where now it's being misconstrued. I
right,
had to really, read up on what submission means, like as far as what that means for like the divine feminine. Like, what does that mean exactly?
right,
What does that mean to the divine masculine? And really, what it is, it comes down to just being able to feel safe in this man's presence enough
right,
to where you can trust that they're going to protect you. You can
right.
trust that they're going to make the right decisions to lead you to the right path.
Yeah,
It's that, like that ability to be able to feel safe and trust this man, right?
yeah,
And women, especially, the divine feminine women, like they have a very strong intuition.
right,
Our bodies will tell us when a man is not right for us. Um, our bodies will tell us, the opposite too. When you can feel safe around this guy, when you feel safe around this man, that that that's a good sign.
yeah,
If your intuition is telling you something is off, you better listen to that because chances are something is off.
Right.
energy doesn't lie, and a woman's intuition is very strong,
Yep.
especially even stronger when she's tapped into that divine femininity.
Yep.
So, that being said, like, yeah, I don't, now that I have a clearer understanding of what submission means, like, for a woman,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean, oh, like, cook and clean while
Right.
he tells you what to do. No, no, it's not
Right.
like that, and it can sound like that coming from the wrong mouth. I
Right.
can see why it would be misconstrued in that way,
Right.
but no, that's not at all what it is. It's all about being able to feel safe enough to where you no longer have to be in that masculine energy where you, because
Right.
independent women, we have, when we're functioning at work or managing our own finances, naturally that brings us into our masculine energy,
Right.
especially if those of us who are running our own business, like we are running from masculine energy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, to be able to balance that and tap back into your feminine energy, you have to do
Yeah.
the work. And with that, you have to be able to find a partner who is going to make you feel safe enough to tap into your feminine energy effortlessly.
Right.
Because, if you end up with a man who is not, in his divine, he's going to stress you out, and
Yep.
stress will put a woman like way into her masculine energy. She will get
Exactly.
defensive, she will get, you know uh,
Yeah.
always like
I
constantly
understand.
exhausted and tired
I
of,
understand.
like,
I
and they're going to want to
understand.
run, they're going to want to take the lead themselves, and
Exactly.
you don't want, like, the divine feminine doesn't want that. That's not how we thrive. Like, we cannot
Yeah.
thrive in that kind of, dynamic. So
Yeah. I get you.
that that definitely, it does matter, and I feel like there needs to be more light shed on that topic, because
Right.
there's just so much, like, misunderstanding going around when it comes to, like, what it means to for a man to lead and for a woman to submit, from both sides. I
Yeah.
feel, there's
Yeah.
a lot of misunderstanding from both men and women. And
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I feel like when it comes to the term submission, I feel like the relationship that I have with the term submission is almost the same as a gift. You know, I look at it as the gift that a woman has to give. It's nothing that a woman owes a man, right? Like, you don't owe me just because I exist on this earth as a man. You don't owe me submission. And I feel like that's kind of what a lot of guys see it as, like a job description or something. Like, can you cook? Can you clean? Can you be submissive? Can you know what I'm saying? But
mhm,
I feel like I feel like if I was to dumb it down, I feel like a man represents the airport and a woman represents the airplane, and she's in the air and she's like, well, does this landing strip look safe to land on?
mhm,
I don't think it's safe enough. I'm gonna keep flying. You know what I'm saying? Or
yeah,
I'll land here, but I'll keep the plane running. Like, you know what I'm saying? Different things that,
exactly,
whereas like this whole submission topic is like, yeah, I need my woman to submit, even though my airport landing strip is made of paper. You know what I'm saying? But I need you to be able to land on it though. That's how I feel like majority of guys think about submission. Like, she needs to just submit to me. Like, there's a certification you can get on submission, like you are now qualified to submit to anybody. You know what I'm saying? No,
mhm,
it's about how well you're building that space that a woman can fall into, right? And then once your space is built, because if you line up five guys, and let's say all five of those guys were like healthy in their, masculine, divine masculine energy and things like that, each one of those landing strips will look entirely different. But for that guy, it's going to be what they have to give. This is what
exactly.
divine energy has manifested. And it's like, I have to be able to You have, as a woman, you have to be able to do that, but as a man, I have to at least be able to see what type of plane you are and be able to at least have some type of discernment, like, hey,
Right.
are you gonna is this compatible? You know what I mean? And I feel like that is really what the submission thing comes in, because it's like, if you have a solid structure, then you know what I mean, that a woman can land into, then your only issue at that point would be just finding the type of woman who fits the type of structure that you have. You know what I mean? But as far as like, yeah, my whole, you dig, being made of paper and sticks and stuff like that, and still talking about, yeah, the problem is women don't know how to submit. No, the problem is men don't know how to build a proper foundation that a woman will want to even step into.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, I can't tell you. I feel like I can't make you be. I can't make you put on the drawers that I'm supposed to put on. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, how could you not submit to me? Well, you don't have anything to submit to, sir. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have,
Right.
you don't you don't have, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like one of those things where when you say, like when you say something like out loud, and it's like the fact that you said it out loud shows us that you don't have that very thing. Like, I'm confident people don't have to say that they're confident. People who, synergize with the right women who gives that gift of quote unquote submission, don't have to put on the job, hey, before we go forward, you know how to submit, right? It just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Because it's is that's it's not as surface level as that. It's like, you work on yourself as a man, you work on yourself as a woman, you're simply, by the laws of attraction, going to attract a better quality man,
Exactly.
attract a
And
better
also
quality
too,
woman.
I really do think it's a two-way street. Yes, absolutely. The man is the one who should be leading the tone of the relationship, right? He should be able to, you know, be able to make a woman feel safe enough to be able to submit and fall into her feminine energy naturally. I mean, it's never, women are naturally in our natural feminine state when we are not stressing, when we are just really in tune with ourselves and just feeling great. Naturally we fall into our feminine energy and we are just naturally submissive. Like
Exactly.
we don't want to lift a finger, we want to get pampered, and like that's when we feel good, that's when we are
Exactly.
most comfortable, that's our natural state. So like
Exactly.
submission's not necessarily an effort. It's more of like just something you should naturally fall into when you're healed enough. Now I will say, what does require effort for a woman to be able to do that, you could meet a divine masculine man, but if you have not done the work as a woman,
Right.
your own inner work to like learn how to be okay and feel safe within yourself to fall into your feminine energy,
Right.
you will repel these men. Like
Right.
if you still hold that some trauma from your past or whatever, you still hold like some bitterness or like some
Yeah.
anger and resentment, you're still
Right.
holding on to that, you never got the chance to really fully heal from that. You may feel that it's okay to start picking fights with this guy and getting defensive over little stuff, and like that just means that you may have more inner work to do before you can maintain a healthy relationship with a divine masculine counterpart.
Right.
So I will say, that definitely does require work as far as like for
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
That's part of the inner work, being able to face those things, like
Yeah.
learning you have to learn how to be able to tap into your feminine energy on your own time. Learn how to feel
Yeah.
comfortable with it, because especially if you grow up um being defensive all the time, which I come from the background I come from, like the area of Houston I'm from, like in just Houston in general, I'll be real, women are naturally aggressive for a reason.
Right.
Part of that is we're like known as one of the number one human trafficking capitals of the nation. Um,
Mm,
we're an open carry state. We have a very high crime rate. So and also too, like I mentioned, the hustle town thing. There's a lot of female entrepreneurs out here, but it's we grow up in a very hostile environment. So
yeah,
coming from like where I come from, like it's a hostile environment. The shit ain't sweet out here. You have to constantly be on guard. You have to,
right.
especially if you're a woman driving around, um, by yourself out here, you have to constantly be vigilant, check your surroundings, and be, like, it does
Yeah,
put us in our masculine energy,
yeah,
especially growing up like that. So that it does require work to, like, heal your nervous system and like unlearn some of those things and learn to
yeah,
feel safe. Feel safe, just calming down, just being calm and just like living in that natural flow of state. Like you have to really do the inner work to get to that point, because that right there is key to being united with the divine masculine.
yeah,
That will attract the divine masculine, because if it's the other way around, the divine masculine is going to not want to deal with like the defensive, argumentative, like
exactly,
always trying to run shit type of woman. That
exactly.
type of woman will attract the opposite. They will end up attracting the man who wants the woman to do everything for him, make the decisions for him, lead his, like, I
Right,
see this all the time.
right,
I
right.
see it all the time. There's a lot of like women operating in their more heavily in their masculine energy, and I see them oftentimes like complaining about men that they're dealing with, that they're just leeching off of these women. Like it's clear
Yeah,
that these men are not leaders. They're
yeah.
basically following the woman's lead, which is the complete opposite of what I would want for myself.
Yeah, and you're right, you know. And I know that a lot of my viewpoints are men focused, but I feel like that's I kind of have a blinder on with that. You know what I mean? I kind of have a blinder that says I'm my own first responder. Everything starts with me. Everything is my fault. Everything will be my fault. You know what I'm saying? So I believe that, and that's why even in conversation, I have to stop myself and say, and stop saying when I say like men, I feel like men should do this, and start really just speaking like I do this. This is what I think, and speak from an individual perspective. Because I feel like the main conversation of like the whole red pill and all these alpha male, beta male, you know what I'm saying, and all these different males that's going on these days, I feel like the main conversation is, well, women need to do this. See, women, you know what I'm saying? See, if women knew this and women knew that, but, you know, which may be true to a certain extent, but not in totality to where every single discussion we're talking about what women should do, and we're not talking about what you should do. You know what I'm saying? Why
Mhm.
you're so I've made a decision that, you know, as much as somebody else might be able to say, well, women should do this and women should do that, and to the to extent that I also think women should do certain things, it's not, I'm not the gatekeeper of what women should do. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the gatekeeper, I'm not the watchman of, yeah, you know what I'm saying? See, she didn't do this, and that's why she's like this. You know, I feel like that's very Wendy Williams ish. You know what I'm saying? I feel like
Mhm.
that's very, only thing I'm worried about is what I'm doing. If I'm not receiving the results in my life, that ain't a all men thing. That ain't a women should do this thing. That's a me thing. I get up in the morning and make decisions. You know what I'm saying? So that's just kind of the perspective that I have. I do feel like women do have their own work to do, have their own things, but GK only holds GK responsible for GK. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I don't, I don't care to even spend 2 seconds talking about what another woman should do, as if to imply that that's the reason why I'm not experiencing the results that I want to experience in my life. You know what I mean? That's not, yeah, that's not where I'm at. But I do agree with you in saying that the woman also has to do that work because, and again, that's why I personally, to fortify myself to be able to screen who I have in my life from an energetic and psychological perspective, do the work that I do because I realize that there are successful, quote unquote, like if we're judging success by finances, there are successful women who are still not healed, right? So you have
Mhm.
to be able to get in a position as a man to be able to see past these things, right? Like if you value finances, then that's fine. But if you really value energy, then you shouldn't let finances intimidate you from still evaluating that energy or from
Right.
from justifying BS energy or energy that's not in alignment with yours. Because one thing that I feel like I've seen in my personal life is I've seen, quote unquote, financially successful women, women who have a job, have the house, have shelter, have can go out or whatever. But that none of that, and these are things that would intimidate a guy like, oh man, she got this, I ain't there yet, yada yada yada. She's out of my league. So now I gotta bend over backwards and go through all these hoops. But in reality, I've realized that, with all that success, women still desire a man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that never there, just because you're making $100,000, just because she's making $100,000 a year and you're making 30,000, that might disqualify you from her on her standards. But as far as you still, I guess technically being able to have a mind. Oh wait, hold on, my bad. To be able to have a mind that is still complementary to a situation, you know what I mean? That should not be intimidating to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it may be, and it's just me. I'm in my own delusional world, so this is just solely the representation of my thoughts. But I believe that, hey, you know what? I'm in pursuit of what's to come for me. So just because I'm here right now doesn't speak to the museum of uncommon information that's inside of my mind right now as we sit here and speak. So
Mhm.
if if you're making 100,000 and you've done and everything that you've done right now has gotten you to the $100,000 point, us having a divine conversation may be the thing that takes that to the 200 or the 1 million. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I look at this. You know what I mean? But I have to be clear on myself and know who I am to be able to stand firm in that, even in the face of something as minimal as finances. Because what is money? You know, like, money to me is just a byproduct of your habits, a byproduct of your decisions in life, and so therefore it's attainable by anybody who's willing to put in the work, you know.
Right.
So I feel like as a man, you still have to be able to gauge, like, you may see a successful woman and be like, hey, or a financially successful woman, and she just still might have not done the shadow work, but because you feel like she has this, you feel like, oh, what she's the stuff that she's making me deal with, maybe this is just what comes with these type of women, and that's not true.
Mhm.
There's still, you still have to be able to screen if you
Right.
value, like if you're like us and you value psychological aspect, the stability from things, including but not limited to finances. It's like
Right.
psychology, psychological stability, emotional stability. You know what I'm saying? And it's stability in these other frameworks. You can still be able to really stand firm in your values, even in the face of someone who technically has more money than you. You know.
But also too, I really do feel like a common problem, uh, and I could just be generalizing to an extent, but not really. I just think in this generation, again, I could completely just be generalizing. It just kind of, just based on discussions I've seen online, on social media, different platforms, like I've noticed there's like a lot more financially successful women than the average man. But
Mhm.
the thing is, there are a lot of men who, you know, I was speaking on like, married couples that a few married couples who have shared like, their testimonies. Like, there are some dynamics where like, let's say the woman meets this man and initially she was making way more than he was.
Right,
But instead of him feeling like, oh, this, she can do better, like, they were in alignment enough to where he really took the time and did what he had to do to
right,
meet her where she's at, like as far as income level or even more, so
right,
that he can be able to put himself in that position to be that provider for her. Because to him,
right,
it didn't sit well that he wasn't that and he wants to be
right.
that. It's like, I feel like men, uh, a lot more men, especially in this generation, should feel, if they are healed enough and they do want to make it work with, let's say, like a financially successful woman, they should, take that initiative to even to try to be better, to
Yeah,
try to do better. And I
yeah,
think, I feel like there's like a lot of laziness now,
right,
in a lot of men in today's world.
right,
They don't feel like they don't feel like they should. They just would rather take the lazy way out. And I think
right.
partially that partially has to also do with, um, the fact that a lot of these financially successful women are operating in their masculine energy to where it's like
Right,
enabling that. And
right.
it's just that at the end of the day, it's the balance of energy, right?
Yeah.
Now that we
And
have like more women operating more in their masculine, now as a result, we have more men.
yeah. Uh-oh. Hello? Did we lose you?
Get, yeah, I cut off for a second. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um, Yeah, no, I feel like, that's caused a lot more men to like operate more in like a feminine energy and vice versa. Like the more
right,
that there are men operating in their feminine, as a result, there are more women operating in their masculine.
right.
So I
And
just think, it really it just comes down to the individual and their inner work,
right. And I
like
yeah,
whatever
I'm
it is you want to attract, you gotta put in that work and vice versa.
yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. And I feel like this is why I hold myself as a man to such a high standard that I have to fulfill to be who I need to be for any future relationships or things that I may dabble in because um damn, I'm losing it. I'm losing it. I was there. I'm losing it. Um oh man, what was we saying? Oh, because like okay, like in the last thing I was saying that oh, my bad. I am so sorry. I got the people, putting their comments and adding their 2 cents, and pretty much Law been man in this thing by itself. But we got a few people in here. So shout out to Law in the building. Shout out to Golden Entrepreneurship in the building. Shout out to Y2K Collector in the building. I'm gonna just read some of these real quick from before. Yep, my whole family tree has been cursed with the bad relationships. Even my own parents, they've been knowing each other 53 years next Halloween. And right off the back, my father wasn't his true self to mom. And she didn't find out his truth till she was signing their marriage license 7 years later when she happened to see his truth on there Oh, with they love child. Oh wow. Yep, males have never had no guidance, support, love ever. Golden retriever. I mean, I said, hey, forgive me. Let's rewind that. Rewind that. Golden entrepreneurship says GK. Um, wait, I lost it. I lost it. He says
It said,
GK hustle, brother, keep pushing. Um, Law says they say if you point one finger, it's three fingers pointing back at you. I definitely agree on that. And he also says, I keep losing it. I went through so much trauma as a child that it's the spirit that came to me early in childhood, and any human relationship is and in any human relationship is you're gonna have to make life better. Is you're gonna have to help me heal. Wait, is you got love for me. If something happens, will you be my shelter, even risk your safety and well-being for me? Got you. Y2K collector says many of them feel like they're overpaying. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by saying they're overpaying? um if you ain't helping making my life, my situation better, ain't no need for me to help make your life and situation better. To get the best, you have to be your best. And then he says, Amen, Y2K. Now, I will say this, like before, right? Like, when I gave my statement last, it was like basically saying, like, well, I think that even if she does make more money than me, I feel like there's still something that I can contribute to the space, right? Like there's something that I feel like me personally, I got wisdom that can be applied, regardless.
mhm.
But on the more humbler side of that coin, right? If you make significantly more money than me, and that which is an indicator that you're doing something right, you understand something, you have unlocked something. And I in that case, I need to ask myself, is this a situation where I need to be willing to be a student of what you got going on? You feel what I'm saying? And that's something to where you have to put your pride to the side. You have to be, you will, I ain't gonna lie, I don't even think that that's a pride to the side issue, because that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for you to be learning from somebody and always understand that you're a student, and that, in order for you to become, get 100,000, maybe you're gonna have to get mentored by somebody who makes 100,000 already. That's just how it goes. So the fact that it's your significant other or your spouse or your girlfriend, I feel like shouldn't make a difference. Now, I feel like where the man pride comes in is when you don't have anything to ground yourself in, right? Like you don't have you don't have anything. You don't have a job, you don't have a purpose, you don't have a direction, you don't have a career path, and you just out here dangling and raw dogging life. I feel like, yeah, that type of guy maybe can feel intimidated by a woman who has her stuff together, has a house, has her head screwed on straight, who reads and all this different type of stuff, because it seems like, it's just an avalanche of stuff that guy feels like he'll never be. It's gonna take him too long, and he's gonna have to pretty much live in your shadow or something like that, or be your feel, or he's gonna feel like your side piece or something like that, like your trophy. You know what I'm saying? Like your but that's not the case. That's just a pride thing, man. I feel like, man, I want Oprah Winfrey to know right now she got action at me. You know what I'm saying? So if it's ever a time that Oprah Winfrey wanna, find somebody, to give some charity to, man, she could definitely come my way. I would never, I would never, what I'm saying, let my pride get in the way of that, that connection right there. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to make that be known. But yeah, you gotta be able to know when it's time to really listen. It's time to really be a student. It's time to really understand, like, hey, I'm I'm blessed to have a woman who makes more than me, because she can show me something that I didn't know and help me get in position to be the man that I know I'm supposed to be. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to that option? So that's how I look at it. But also I feel like too, you know, again, like I just feel like everything starts with me as the guy. You know, I feel like I gotta set the pace for this, you know, because no matter how much money a woman makes, no matter how, that doesn't change the fact that she's still a woman and wants to be treated
Hmm.
like a woman. And that it's your job as a man to create that lane for her to open up as a woman. I look at feminine energy, like that divine feminine energy, like a flower, like a flower, and it's like blossoming. And if you create that safe space, the flower will blossom.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you don't create a safe space, or if you bait and switch, then it's like that. It's gonna
That'll turn
hold you
into a
back up.
Venus flytrap.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and it's that simple to me. Like, it's not simple as far as what's going to make that woman open up, what's going to make that synergy happen, but it's simple in the fact that you open it up or you close it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that, I don't know, like as a man, right? Like, I take pride as a man in being the type of man that can um make space for that energy, right? Because that speaks to the work that I have done as a man, especially with me knowing where I have a person like me has came from, you know, to where I'm finally getting the results that I want in life, not only with women, but just in life in general, because of the work that I have put in and the level of pain and that I was willing to go through it myself to see all my traumas and face those things and integrate my shadow to where now I have a deeply rooted groundedness about myself that if not only women, but anybody comes around me, they can feel that. They can feel that groundedness. But with women, it does create that safety that lets them kind of know energetically, like, wow, I can kind of let my guard down here and he will kind of take care of this space. I feel like that's priceless. And it's priceless because that's something that can't be bought. You can't I can't. So that's why the hundred that the making more money or independent women thing kind of doesn't register with me personally because you know what makes me a man is not how much money you make. You know what I'm saying? How much money you make. It's not even about how much money I make. It's with me. It's about the work that you've done to know yourself enough to be grounded. You
Hmm.
know, and that's really where I sit at with that. You know, I
Yeah,
don't know. I
I
don't know if you had. That's how you. I don't know if how you feel about that.
no, I definitely agree. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if the way I view money, I view money as like a tool. Um, it is, I would even go as far to say your energy level definitely, at least speaking from, the feminine energy point of it, the energy is what attracts um, the level of income you're making, because for women, one thing that's talked about a lot when it comes to like the divine feminine and making money, uh, we're taught that we are most financially abundant when we are thriving in our creativity and thriving in our like feminine state where we're just relaxing and not chasing money. The divine feminine is about attracting, not chasing.
Yeah.
Pursuing is more of a masculine trait, but like the divine feminine, we're supposed to position ourselves to attract
It's like
opportunities,
that
attract
flower,
money.
yeah,
And if we're constantly hustling and like chasing the money, it's going to be a little bit harder for us because
right,
that's where we shouldn't be chasing. We
yeah.
shouldn't be
That's
chasing
a
that because we're
survivalistic
repelling
thing.
that.
Yeah, that's a
So I
survival.
do think it's like an energetic tool for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it really, there's just so much. I guess just because we live in an economy now where like there's so much emphasis placed on finances that unfortunately
right,
it did bleed into the dating space.
right.
Now it everybody's, going through it at the
Yeah,
moment. Both
Yeah.
man and women are trying to, figure out ways to make ends
Yep.
meet.
Yep.
So
And
it is like,
that's why it's more priceless than ever for you to really find yourself, because it's more people living in survival mode than not. You know what I mean? Men looking for some woman to cling on to, women looking for some men to cling on to just to survive another day, or at least to feel like you're surviving another day. You know what I mean? So I agree though. I think that I think this has been a very productive conversation, and I think that, at the bottom of all of this, I think the lesson that anybody should, from my perspective, the lesson that anybody should take from this is really take the time to get to know yourself, because the conversation starts with you. Like, again, I feel like a lot of the problems that we see in with relationships and individuals comes from not knowing yourself, right? Like, I know now, I know now I'm an individual. I'm probably gonna build my life to be a nomad. I'm probably gonna get me one of those um convert U-Haul vans that they selling they not that they don't have in commission anymore. I'm gonna deck that joint out, turn it into a, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get on the road now to certain groups of women. It's like, yeah, that doesn't make sense for me at all. I'm trying to get a house. I want to have kids. I want to settle down and live here with my white picket fence. And that's cool. And I can see something like that and respect that and know, like, maybe one day I'll get to that. But that's not me right now. But
right.
then, but when I go online or when I go on YouTube and all these other things, and I see that there are in fact couples who match in that aspect to where they are doing the nomad life together, and it's like never in a million years, right? Because we, like, without that exposure, right, never in a million years would I have thought, with my experience with women and pretty much a majority of women that I've dealt with, telling me, like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to get to the single family home, stable investments, stable income, kids. You know what I'm saying? To fathom, they're not able to fathom going and living in the back of a truck and waking up and going to Planet Fitness, taking a shower or something like that. It's just it doesn't sound divine feminine to those women, and that's fine for what they have known, what they are looking for in their lives. But there is somebody out there who meshes well with somebody who has a lifestyle like what I want to have. And so the trick is being willing to den- go without long enough to really get what was meant for you, you know? Because in having the discernment to be able to know who to keep saying no to, even though people may
Hmm.
be presenting themselves at you, right? Like, the more you get in your energy, the more people are gonna find their way to you. The more people are gonna be like, oh yeah, no, I want you. I'm ready for you right now, and things like that. And you got to be able to say no, you know, because you now have that higher discernment, you know. And that takes, man, and the level of discipline that takes, especially as a man. I don't know how it feels to be a woman, but I know as a man, that sexual drive never goes away. That masculine urge to want to pursue conquest, it never goes away. So you have to learn how to deal with that. You have to learn how to manage that and keep that inside of a container, a sandbox, and have more power than it has over you.
And you
You
know
know,
what's funny? I recently read. I don't know about you, but I'm into like audiobooks and stuff. The recent audiobook that I listened to was think what was it? Think and Grow Rich
Drink and
or
Grow
something.
Rich. Yeah,
Yeah,
Think and Grow
yeah.
by
Think
Napoleon
and Grow
Hill.
Rich. Yeah, like I remember it mentioned something about like the most highly sexed individuals are more likely to be very financially successful if they learn to harness that into
Yeah,
their pursuits, because that
yeah. Because that's your most divine energy. That is literally your divine energy. Like
it's a
I speak
powerful
in terms,
energy.
yeah, I speak in terms of chakras. So it's like that's your sacral energy. That's literally where the essence of who you are comes from, like your erotic energy. But look, I think we may have 30 more seconds on here because I think that it only
Oh
lasts
yeah.
2 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I appreciate you, getting on live with me. I feel like this was very productive, and I really hope to do this again with you. If not only with you, hopefully we can involve Cali Girl too at one point, or somebody else who has a perspective. But I
Mhm.
appreciate this.
Yeah, I appreciate you. It was good to have this talk.
All right, all right. Talk to you soon. Okay.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.